So today we are going to be talking about how to create your family tree online. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Katie Stope. I'm the local history librarian here at Appleton Public Library, and I'm kind of your genealogy go-to person. That's why we created this Genealogy Jumpstart presentation series. So this is our fifth or sixth session, I can't remember. I've got handouts of some of the past sessions on the table here for you in-person folks. For you virtual folks, you can go to our Genealogy Jumpstart website and download any of those. You can also watch our past videos. So we record every one of these sessions. If you've missed one, you can jump in anytime and watch those recordings on YouTube. So to start, you might be wondering, well, why am I going to create a family tree online? So I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why it might be a good practice to have a tree online. So we talked a little bit in our first session about, some forms that you can use offline or online to create your tree. But today we're going to focus more so on how to do it online, because online can help connect you to other researchers like your cousins and distant cousins, and be able to easily share your work with them. You can also have your family tree on multiple sites, making sure that your work is widely available. So as long as you decide to make it publicly available, this means your research can hopefully survive you. So all of your hard work doesn't go to waste. Now, generations that haven't even come yet might be able to see that family tree and all that research that you've done already to this point. If you're somebody who's tech savvy, it might also be easier to keep a digital copy for yourself just because we're in that kind of technology age. You can really quickly and easily add stuff, you can edit stuff, you can remove stuff with just a couple clicks of a button and typing. Whereas if you do paper forms, obviously you're going to have to erase that pencil or pull out all your sheets and figure out what sheet it's on in order to make those edits. Whereas on the websites, it's a little bit easier to make those edits. One thing that I really love is that you can easily pull up your family tree anywhere you have internet. So without needing all your papers or needing to haul a bunch of documents with you, you can just log into that website where you have your family tree and be able to pull it up. Oh, what was that name? What was that date? Maybe you were going on a research trip or you're sitting with a cousin and having a conversation and they ask a question that you don't know off the top of your head about your family tree. But now all of a sudden you can pull up that information really quickly and easily if you have a digital copy available. They even make it so that you can access your tree on a smartphone or on a tablet, like if you have an iPad, something that you always carry with you on your phone. You can view your tree. You can even do some quick edits depending on what site and what apps you're using. If you're somebody like me who has terrible handwriting, that doesn't matter for online trees. Of course, you want to be able to leave something for your descendants that they're going to be able to read. If they can't read your handwriting, how good is that research going to be to them if they are wondering, is that a G or, is that a Y? There's also a couple genealogy software options. We're talking about a few of them briefly today. But some of them also sync with the popular genealogy website. So you might be familiar with Ancestry, with Family Search, with Heritage Quest, which we'll dive into a little bit today. They have some genealogy software available that would connect those websites with your genealogy software, so you're not having to reduplicate typing in all that stuff again. And again, you can it helps you share your tree easier with others that way. You can also keep your trees up to date without, that constant need to retype stuff or make that change on the line and then make that change on your website. You only have to do it in one place. If you've done your DNA, the trees can help you connect those DNA matches and have those DNA matches be able to see your tree easily, assuming that you've made your tree public. Now you can easily see how you and that other person who share DNA might be related through your family tree. Genealogy websites also help create a digital timeline for our ancestors, which is really helpful in our research to figure out exactly where our ancestors are at a given time in a given place, because that points us to where we need to research and what time period we need to research, because 1900 Wisconsin is different from 1910 Germany. You need to know exactly when and where to research your ancestors to be able to find them. It also helps us to see our gaps that we might have in our research. So maybe if you look at the timeline for your great grandfather, you see, hey, I don't have any records of him from 1880 to 1900. Well, now I know I need to try to track down something to figure out, was he in the same place in 1880 as he is in 1900 or in 1890? Where was he? What was he doing? Was he in a different place or was he in service? What was he doing during that 20-year gap of time? Now I can go investigate, see if I can find some records that would be able to shed some light on his life during that time. So now we're going to quickly talk about the different ways that you can build your tree. Of course, like I mentioned, that pen and paper is something we talked about in depth in our first session on getting started in genealogy. So we talked about pedigree charts, which will track your individual family history back through time. The great thing about pen and paper, of course, is it doesn't require any computer or any technology skills. Unless you decide, hey, I'm going to print my forms online or I'm going to download those forms online. So if you're somebody who's not very tech savvy and you still want to do genealogy, this is a great way for you to still research your genealogy and keep it organized on this pedigree chart. If you are a little tech savvy or get some help from somebody who is tech savvy, you can always use these forms that you find online and then type them. So if you're somebody like me who has bad handwriting, you can type in the information on that form. Even if you aren't somebody who wants to put your tree online, you can still have those forms printed or type online and have them printed that way. So for example, this is a look at the pedigree chart where I typed, because again, I have bad handwriting. So you can see we start with one generation and go back to list that person's parents, their grandparents, and great-grandparents, all on this one handy-dandy chart where it shows you their birth information, their marriage information, their death information, their spouse, all kinds of great stuff. So again, this is something that you could do very easily when you're working on that pedigree chart. If you need a refresher, of course, I encourage you to watch that session again if you've missed it. Again, you can go to our website, apl.org/genealogyjumpstart, where I've got the links to the recording of that session and the handout from it. Or you would just go to our YouTube channel. We have a whole playlist dedicated to this series. So I go through very in-depth what a pedigree chart is, what a family group sheet is. So if you're somebody who really just wants to do that pen and paper, you probably want to refresh your brain by watching session 1 if you didn't watch it, or rewatch it if you need a refresher. The second kind of option that you can do to build your tree is going to be putting it on a genealogy software. So there's going to be several different options for genealogy software, both free options and paid options. So these are going to be a one-time fee to purchase that software. Some allow a limited use for free, or like you can build your tree up to a certain amount for free, or they offer a free trial for a certain time period before you buy. So you can make sure, oh, I actually like this software. It seems like something I can understand and would like to use. Some software companies might charge you an upgrade fee if you want to upgrade to the newest version, because every few years it seems like they're doing updates to make it bigger and better and easier to use. But you don't always have to upgrade. You can, have an older version and just be okay. Cost-wise, we're looking at some of them are as low as $20 for those ones that are paid. And then some of them are up to $100. I found everything that I found for genealogy software was under $100. Depending on if you have a Mac or a PC, it would work on both. Some popular options of genealogy-specific software is going to be Family Tree Maker, which is a really great one to use if you have an ancestry tree. There's also RootsMagic, Legacy Family Tree, and Family Historian. This is definitely not an inclusive list. There's a lot more different software options on there. But in your handout, you're going to find a link for an article that talks about the different overviews and the different features of each software. So you can look at them and make your determination on if you want to purchase one of these or explore them on your own. I don't have any recommendations on any of them. I've used Rouge Magic and Family Tree Maker a little bit, but not a ton. And of course, everybody's different needs and what they want to do with their software is going to be different. So that's why you need to look a little bit yourself and see what's going to be easiest for you and most cost effective for you. Like I mentioned earlier, some of the software syncs with online trees. So if you're somebody who says, I really want to have an online tree, this might be a good thing that you want to look for when you're looking for software to see, hey, which one syncs with an ancestry tree if that's where I decide I'm going to put my family tree online. So then seeing what software would complement that. This is really easy to use the genealogy software if you are familiar with using computers. So that pedigree chart that we just looked at a few minutes ago, the genealogy software that is available really mimics that view of that pedigree chart in this software. The downfall of software is that you do need some technology skills to learn how to use it when you first start to use it. Some of it's a little intuitive, but if you're somebody who's not super tech savvy, you might need somebody to help you get started and figure out, okay, when I click this button, what does it do? How do I input a source? How do I input a name? Things like that, that you might need a little guidance on how to do that. The great thing about software is that you can produce special reports of your research. So some things that they can do is they can run a whole report on all of your family tree if you've got 1,000 people in there and it says, hey, we found these 3 duplicates that you might want to investigate. Is this the same person? Did you accidentally add the same person twice? There's also something called a location report. So you can see the names of all the people who lived in Madison, for example, or Green Bay. There's also something called a narrative report where it can write out your genealogy for you, basically. If you're somebody who, I don't want to sit and write a whole genealogy, but I want to display my research and share with my family, you can just, within a few clicks, download this report and have your genealogy be shared, that you can give it out to cousins or your grandkids or whoever you want to give it to. There's also something called a problem finder report. So it might say, hey, it doesn't make sense that this mom, the date that you have for her birthday means she had her first child at age 10, or she got married at age 8. That's a problem. Most people aren't getting married at age 8 or having a child at age 10. So maybe you just mistyped the number or something happened where the number is not correct. Another great thing about the software is that you get some more tools available that you might not get in other forms. So for example, I really like to color code stuff. So in a genealogy software, you can make certain branches of the family a certain color if you'd like, in order to really easily identify, oh, this is my father's paternal line of the family, and this is my father's maternal line, and have those be separate colors. Helps you kind of organize your research a little bit better that way sometimes too. The other great thing with software is you can share a GEDCOM file. So a GEDCOM file is a specific genealogy software file type. It stands for Genealogical Data Communication. So you can download this file and then share it with other people that way. But unfortunately, when you're sharing it with your cousin or your sister, there's no way for them to go into that file and edit it or contribute to your tree without you having to go through and add the data in your specific tree in your software. So whoever you would share that with would need that software or to upload that GEDCOM file to a website that accepts a GEDCOM in order to view it or in order to make edits to it or make additions to it. The other downfall is that you only have the one copy of that tree and that software on whatever device you download it to. So if you're downloading it on your laptop and something happens to your laptop and you don't have that file backed up somewhere, and something happens, like your computer breaks, you lost that tree and all that stuff. I know some software has a couple like things that they're back it up for you for free or for additional $5 or something like that. Certain softwares offer that service, or you could always, what I typically do is I download a copy of my GEDCOM like every 2 to 3 weeks or every month or so. On the first of the month, download a copy of it and save it like on a USB drive or an external hard drive, something that you have that additional copy just in case anything happens to your computer in that meantime, you at least have a backup of it. So this is just an example of one of the software options. So RootsMagic, it's on its 10th version. So this is just a quick screenshot of what RootsMagic looks like. So compared to that pedigree chart we just looked at a few minutes ago, you can see it has that first person in the starting position. Their parents are in the other positions, grandparents, great-grandparents, etc. And then as you click on people, you can see like a little preview of some of the relevant information on that person that pops up on the side. So if this doesn't look intimidating to you, definitely check out some of the software options that are available and see if that's how you'd like to build your tree. And then the one we're going to focus on for the most of this talk is going to be the online option. So you can host your tree online on one of the genealogy websites. Just like the software, there's going to be several options available, both free and paid options. So many of these genealogy websites will allow you to build your family tree for free, but some do have a limit to the amount of people that you can add on the tree for free. So for example, we'll talk about MyHeritage for a little bit. They have a limit of a certain amount of people. I think it's 250 if I'm remembering right. That once you go to 251, it's saying, oh, you need to buy a subscription in order to expand your tree, which is a little bit of a bummer. The paid versions of these sites mean you must have a subscription in order to access all the different features on these websites or create that bigger tree. So they can be a monthly, an annual, a yearly subscription. So something that you need to continually pay for in some cases. And of course, it can be really expensive. They're going to vary in cost depending on what site you're using. Sometimes you can pause your membership, but some sites like Ancestry, they want to charge you to keep your tree if you cancel your subscription. So that's why I always recommend if you do decide to go this route with hosting your tree online, that you always have a backup. So it's really easy to download that GEDCOM file from your Ancestry tree. So if you've already started your tree on Ancestry, maybe before you cancel your subscription, or get in that habit of every month or so downloading a copy of your GEDCOM file that would be all your research into this one file. Of course, these websites are pretty easy, again, to use if you're familiar with using computers. And like we are going to see, it really mimics that paper-based pedigree chart that we looked at and the family group sheets that we've looked at in our first session. The great thing about these is that it's hosted online. So if something does happen to your computer, you don't have to worry about losing all of your tree. I still always recommend backing everything up. I use what's called the 3-2-1 principle. So 3 copies of the same thing across 2 different mediums, with one being off-site. So what I usually do is I download that GEDCOM file, or save it on my computer, or save it on an external hard drive. I might have a copy on the cloud that is off-site. So if my house burns down and that external hard drive that it's on and my computer that it's on is in that fire, then that cloud option, if I have it saved on Google Drive or some other website where I can download it, then I haven't lost all of my research. Again, it's really easy to download a GEDCOM from these sites. If you're somebody who's been building your tree for a while and you want to learn how to do that, just ask me and I can show you specifically how to do it on Ancestry for sure. One of the great things is that you can also log into your account on any computer or any device that you would have internet access to, as long as you remember your username and password. So for example, I could pull up my tree right now on this computer, or I could pull it up on a computer elsewhere in the library or at my house. As long as I remember that username and password, I can pull up anywhere I am. You can also allow other people to help collaborate on your tree with you more easily and easily share your findings with them. So you can easily invite one of your cousins or your sister to your tree and they can work on it alongside with you. Whereas, if you just have that genealogy software, you'd only have it on that one computer where they would have to physically be with you and work on it with you and not be able to do it from their house and you do it from your house at the same time. Depending on what website you choose, determines if you have your own personal tree. Like on Ancestry, you can build your own personal tree with the option to invite others to collaborate. But then there's other trees where it's just one large collaborative tree for every single person. So we're going to look at Ancestry and Family Search and see the difference between those two. So Ancestry, each person has their own tree. Family Search, everybody who logs into Family Search is just one world tree that everybody can make changes to and make additions to at any time. So you'll be able to see that in just a few minutes. You, of course, don't have to pick just one of these types. You can do all of them or do whatever you want to do. Maybe you want to have a tree on Ancestry. Maybe you want to update the tree on Family Search. Maybe you want to use the Roots Magic software. You want to also maybe have printed pedigree charts and family group sheets, whatever's going to work best for you. Each of us is going to have our own individual style and our own individual preferences. Maybe you decide, hey, I don't want to do software, or nope, I don't want to put my tree online. It sounds too complicated. That's your own individual choice. So again, it's going to be different for everyone. You just need to decide on your personal needs, your computer skills, and which makes most sense for you. But of course, you want to remember to have at least one way to document your research and tree because you want to stay organized, of course, but you also want to be able to pass that research along to future family members. You don't want all that hard work to go to waste. So, if you only have that paper and pen version of, a printed copy of your pedigree charts and stuff, at least make copies and give them to other people. So if something does happen with that pen and paper version, that it doesn't go to waste. A couple things to just consider as you're thinking about what type you might want to do. Do I have those computer skills that are necessary to put my tree online? You need to be able to type and type accurately because remember, there's a difference between 1809 and 1890, of course. If you mistype it or you type a word wrong, that's going to show up in your tree and people are going to be like, well, I have no clue what that person means if you meant to type 1809 and you typed 1890. You also need to, of course, navigate these websites with ease. Of course, as you start using it, if you've never used it before, it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve. But once you get into it and see how easy it is, it's pretty simple to update these and you'll get the hang of it. Another thing is, if you're going to put your tree online, is to determine, do I want to make my tree public or do I want to keep it private? So there's two different options that you can do. If you keep it private, you need to think, well, how is my family going to have access to it after I'm gone? What if next week something happens to me and my tree is marked private on Ancestry and my family has no clue that it's marked private? How are they going to access all my hard work? Or how will other researchers and other cousins be able to find me and connect with me if my tree is private? They can't just search in the website to find my tree because it's private. Nobody can see it except for me or somebody who would have my username and password. Family Search, that is kind of taken out of your hands. They always have the tree on there public unless it's a living person or it's a person that you don't mark deceased, but they are within like 100 or 125 years if their birthday is within that time frame. They consider them still living and they keep that private. Just quickly, I want to talk about a couple benefits of online trees. So of course, I kind of mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but it's really easy to add new stuff that you locate online, and it really helps streamline your research process. So for example, you're searching on Ancestry.com, you find your ancestor in a census record, you can then add that information right to your tree with just a few clicks of a button. That will now all of a sudden put that census record in the timeline, add it as a source, and then you don't have to worry about it. If you have a genealogy software, for example, that doesn't integrate with that Ancestry website, or you use that paper and that pen, you have to manually enter that data. So if you find that census record, you might have to manually enter it into your genealogy software, or write a note in your paper and pen that would say, hey, I found this person in the 1900 census on this date, this location, this page, et cetera, and create your source citation. Whereas online, it's just a few clicks and it basically does it for you. You can also easily explore other people's family trees that are online. So you can pair your work with theirs. You can find resources that you haven't been aware of that maybe they already have attached to their family tree. And you can connect with those relatives that you perhaps have never met that share your same ancestors. And the easiest way to do this, of course, is if you have a public tree or if they have a public tree, then you can be able to search for that information and be able to connect with those people. Those might be those people that inherited those amazing family photos or the family heirlooms, or maybe they personally knew your great grandmother and can tell you stories about that person that's really helpful to know. So on the public-private, I just want to also mention on Ancestry, there's kind of 3 different options. So you can have a private but searchable tree, meaning only I can see all the data, but at least if people type in my ancestor's name, they know that a tree exists out there with that person's name, and they can contact me to get more information. The second option is a private but unsearchable tree, meaning you're the only one who knows it even exists. You're the only one who knows who all the people are in it. Nobody can search it and find it and connect with you. Or there's a public tree, so everybody can be able to easily find it and be able to see everything you have on that tree, except for those people that are marked living. That, of course, always remains private. And then, like I mentioned already, family search, of course, it's always public, except for those living people are marked private. One other great benefit of online trees is you can easily take your online tree data and create a really visually appealing pedigree chart, which you can show off to your family, you can hang on the wall. There's many kinds of different charts and things that you can do. Like there's something called a fan chart, like this example here, where you can put a person in the middle here, and then all these different fans are the different branches, where you can have maternal ancestors on one half, paternal ancestors on another, or create something like this that I did in Canva that was really, nice and neat and pretty that I can put on my wall. There are a couple drawbacks of some online trees though. So of course, because so many people use online trees, you're gonna come across a lot of really poorly researched trees and trees that just have straight up incorrect information. Some people, they say, hey, there's a free trial for Ancestry for 14 days. Let me just see how far back I can get in those 14 days. And they just click on everything and accept every little hint that they get. And all of a sudden, they're all the way back to Adam and Eve in 10 days. Well, that's not right. And you can guarantee that they've got some incorrect information in there if they just clicked on everything and accepted everything that everybody put on there. There's trees that might not have any sources attached, or trees that might have a bunch of sources attached, but they're kind of click happy and they accepted all those hints without saying, oh, is this my person or is it not? Some people kind of just look at a record and say, oh, the 1900 census, that's the name of my John Smith, and not evaluate, is it really my John Smith or is it a different John Smith? Even if it isn't somebody who has a common name, you'd be surprised how common of a name your ancestor is. I have an ancestor, I always like to call him out. His name is August Kepschel. Seems pretty unique to me, but at the same time, in Chicago, there's like 3 other August Kepschels at the same time. So you've got to kind of make sure that you're attaching to the right August and using the context clues. But sometimes people don't always do that. They just say, oh, name matches, the place matches with what I think it is, and they just add it to their tree without analyzing it properly. So of course, you don't want to do that, or you don't want to just copy their information, because lots of people just unfortunately copy all these errors that they see on family trees because they say, oh, there's 50 trees on here that say the same thing. It's got to be correct. Little do they know that maybe that person who put that on there was incorrect, and then 49 people after them copied it. So of course it makes it look like it's correct, but it might not be. You got to take that with a grain of salt as you're looking at these trees, and don't believe everything you see online. You want to verify everything that you find on everybody's tree. and do the actual research yourself. I mean, that's the fun part about genealogy is putting together those pieces of the puzzle to make sure that it's actually your family. You can look at the sources that they have listed and analyze each specific source that you come across. You know, use it as a hint. That's what I usually like to do. And you can look back at our session 1, where we talked about different types of sources, the different information that they can give you, and how to evaluate evidence. We talked a little bit more in depth about that. So if you're somebody who's like, well, how do I figure out if it is my ancestor and what different types of evidence there is, you definitely want to rewatch session 1 or watch the recording if you haven't yet. Another thing, of course, if you have a public tree, well, that means anybody can copy all your research, all your photos that you put on there, all the records. They can just, you know, one person after another, just copy all that stuff that you've already done, all your hard work, and they can even claim it as their own if they want to. They don't have to give you credit for it or even contact you before they decide, hey, I'm just going to save all these 10 pictures that you put of your great grandpa on there because he's also on my tree, I think. So people can do that if you make your tree public. If it's a collaborative tree, like on Family Search, which we'll look at in a few minutes, anybody can change that data or edit that data. So it's kind of a pro or a con. So again, that collaborative tree, that means you don't have that sole ownership of it. So everybody who works on that tree, they can decide that's not the right birthday, I'm going to change it. And they can put in there a reason for it if they want, but they don't have to. So the great part about this is that you might be able to discover information from other researchers that might be correct, but it might not be correct. Because sometimes people don't give you any proof, you don't know where that information came from, it may very well be incorrect. And people can even change your correctly researched information. If you have proof that this is the birthday and you put on my proof, I have his birth certificate, this is what it says, somebody, 3 weeks later can change it to something else because they think they have proof or, oh, this is the date I have. I don't think that's right. So they can kind of change your data in there, unfortunately. The other thing with collaborative trees is you can't easily download your tree because, of course, everybody's working on it. It's this huge living document that there's millions and millions of people in this huge tree. You can't really save it. You can't really print your pedigree chart really easily or your family group sheets really easily like you can do on your genealogy software or those sites that allow you to have that individual tree. So if you were somebody who wanted to have an online tree and have it on your software or have printed copies of some of that online stuff, it's really difficult to do that with a collaborative tree. Do we have questions so far before we dive into looking at what trees look like on Ancestry?
Question about you do online.
Mhm.
Are there some versions of that software where you can, if somebody changes something, you get a notification so you can do it?
Yeah, so if somebody does change the information on Family Search, for example, you can follow those people. So you can follow your specific ancestor. If I want to follow my second great grandmother and somebody makes a change on it, I get a notification. They usually send it like once a week, like, hey, these 10 people have been changed in your tree that you follow. And it will tell you, then you can go in the site and you can look and see, oh, that birth date was changed, or oh, this person added a census record to that person. So that's something that you can do. And we'll talk about Family Search in a little bit later, and I'll show you how to follow your ancestors. Let's see if there's any online questions here. The pedigree chart on which you had typed info, does the form come blank to download? Then you save that and type on it, yes. So I downloaded it from Missbach Enterprises, which we talked about in session 1, and I download a copy of it. So I always have a blank one. Then I resave it with, whoever person I have at the beginning of it. And another question, on my ancestry tree, there are people further back showing up that I know I didn't put there. How could that happen? That's strange. If you are the only person who owns that tree, unless you've invited other people to edit that tree, that's what I would check on it. Maybe a long time ago, you invited some distant cousin to be an editor of that tree, and they have made those changes. That would be the only way somebody could make changes to your tree is if they are invited to. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit about creating your tree on Ancestry.com. So Ancestry.com is pretty much one of the most well-known tree building and genealogy websites. We've talked about it a lot in our first few sessions. We do have a library edition of Ancestry. If you're aware, you can use it for free in the library. The bummer is you can't build a tree in the library edition because, of course, it's open to everybody. There's no sign in to it. You just pull it up on our computers here or pull it up on your computer on the library's internet, and you can access it. So, of course, you can't build your tree in it. But you can have a free Ancestry account. They call it a registered guest, where you can build your tree on it. You just won't have access to some of the historical records that they have on Ancestry unless you have a paid subscription. They do have a limited amount of some free historical records with that free account, but it's a limitation. You also can't view other trees if you just have that free Ancestry account, unless a person has invited you specifically to view their tree and collaborate on their tree. Of course, there is a subscription cost associated with Ancestry if you decide to pay for it to get access to all the things. You can either buy it monthly or every 6 months. They've got 3 different options. They've got a US Discovery that's just United States-based records. They've got a world one, which of course covers the records all over the world. And then they have an all access one because Ancestry owns Ancestry. They own Fold3, which is a military specific records website. And then they own newspapers.com. So they say, hey, have a subscription to all 3 of these so that you can use all of the tools that we have for this price. And then you can also invite up to 4 different family members to use your Ancestry account at no extra cost. So if you're somebody who you're working with your sister and your brother, or maybe a cousin or a couple cousins, and you all want to collaborate together, maybe you want to do that all access subscription where you can all do it for that one price and then share the cost of it. But the price ranges between $21.99 a month to $59.99 a month. Of course, they run different deals sometimes where they might offer it 30% off or 50% off, or all kinds of things that, different costs at different times of the year, things like that. So on occasion, like Black Friday weekend, they usually always run a deal. Usually in early March, there's this thing called Roots Tech, which is a really large genealogy conference that they do every year. So usually during that time, all the genealogy websites run specials because they know people are interested at this time. People are going to sign up at this time. Or on Black Friday weekend, they're buying Christmas gifts for people, where they're trying to offer it, where you can give a gift subscription for 50% off or something like that. Again, you can do a 14-day free trial with Ancestry. You just want to make sure to cancel beforehand or they will charge you. If you do stop your subscription or don't renew a subscription, you do lose access to any of the historical records, even if you've attached it to people in your tree. So if you've attached a 1900 census to your great-grandpa, as soon as your subscription's over, you can't click on that census and pull it up unless you download a copy of it to your computer or print a copy, and I will show you how to do that in your Ancestry tree. So what I always do is whenever I find stuff on Ancestry, as soon as I find it, I download a copy of it right away so that I'm not rushing right before my subscription ends to download these 1,000 records that might be in my tree. It's also nice, like you can come in and use the library edition if you don't want to pay for the subscription, so you can download those census records and then you have access to them anytime you want them, or without having to come back into the library to open them again. Like we mentioned a few minutes ago, you have the option to make your tree public, private but not searchable, or private but searchable. So again, people could find you in the search, but it only shows limited information. They would have to contact you for further information. So those are kind of the 3 options for family trees on Ancestry. So the first time you sign into your Ancestry account, even if you create a free one, it's going to have a little spot over here that says trees. And you want to click to start a new tree, Or maybe somebody has given you a GEDCOM file. Maybe a cousin of yours or your sister had a GEDCOM file that they had already started their family tree elsewhere and they gave you a copy of it. You can even upload that GEDCOM right there and then have that be already populated in your ancestry tree if you wanted to do that. But that's where you would start your first tree. Or if you already have trees or you've been invited to trees already, you can click on whatever tree you want to, or create and manage trees, and it will allow you to start a new tree if you want, a 7th or 8th or 9th tree, however many you have. The first time you create a tree on Ancestry, they're really great about walking you through step by step what they need. So it's saying, let's start your family tree. What's your first name and your last name? Then you click next, and it's going to ask you, what's your birth date? Where were you born? All this kinds of stuff to fill in information on yourself, your mother, your father, your grandfather, your grandmother. And it walks you through very, very methodically, step by step. So if it's your first time ever creating a tree, just follow all the prompts, fill in the information they ask. If you don't know the information they ask, it's okay to leave it blank. Then you know you need to go back and find a record eventually to figure out what that information is. If you already have trees and you're creating a new tree, once you click on that Start a New Tree, you just add that home person. And then it's going to ask you to fill in that information on the first and middle name, the last name, what their gender is, if they're deceased or if they're living. And then you can put in that information, their birth information, birthplace, death information, death place. So as you're entering information on Ancestry, there's a couple kind of rules to follow. For names, you of course want to enter their full legal name as much as you know, using a maiden name for a woman. So for example, my great-grandfather, Melvin is his first name, William is his middle name, Stilp is his last name. His wife, I don't know her middle name. I just know her middle initial is M at this point. And then I've got her maiden name here because Ancestry in your tree, it's going to connect that she is the wife of, she's actually the mother of Melvin. So, you put as much information as you can at this point. Maybe later on you'll find a record that tells you what that M stands for, and then you can go in there and edit it later. If that person has a nickname or maybe their name is really commonly misspelled, there's a spot where you can add alternative names. So maybe Frederick always went by Fred. Well, you still put in there Frederick, and then later on you can add Fred is his nickname. With dates, you always want to list it in a specific format. So day, 3 letters for the month, so abbreviate the month. And then the 4-digit year, because of course, if you just put in 03, do you mean 1903, 1803, 1703, 2003? You always want to do the 4 digits of the year. If you're unsure of the day or the year, what you can do is you can use the words ABT to indicate about. You can use BEF to indicate before, or AFT to indicate after. So maybe you think that person was born about 1900, or that they died after a certain time, or were born after a certain time. You can indicate that in your tree to at least give a little bit of a parameter for your tree. And then of course, you'd want to find some record that would give you hopefully a more accurate date. For places, you want to record as much information as you possibly can about where an event happened. So you want to list the smallest place first, so that city or that town, and then that largest level, the country, is going to be last. So for us here in Appleton, we'd list Appleton, that's our city, Outagamie is our county, we're in the state of Wisconsin in the United States. So that's how we would list this location. You also want to use the boundaries of when that event happened. So for example, I have an ancestor who was born in Malens, which was in Kreis-Stolp in Pomerania, which is part of Prussia. Well, Prussia doesn't exist anymore. This location is now Malieniec, Poland. So I want to list that location of what it was when he was living there. And in my notes field, I'm going to put, this is where it actually is now. So When I want to go travel to that location, I know, hey, now I need to go to Poland because Prussia doesn't exist anymore. When you begin entering a location, Ancestry is really great about giving you like options that you can select underneath it. So you can start typing Appleton and it will show you Appleton, Outagamie, Wisconsin, or there's an Appleton in Minnesota or an Appleton out east somewhere that you can select that without having to type the whole thing. If it's not there for some reason, you always just want to put a comma and a space between the location levels. So that city or town, comma, that county, comma, that state, comma, that country, and then that'll be your location. Of course, you want to include all the known levels of a place, even if you don't know all the levels. So maybe you only add the city and the country if that's all you know for now. Maybe you just have Springfield. I don't know, is it Springfield, Ohio, Springfield, Illinois? There's Springfield probably in every state. Well, maybe at this point you don't know what specifically state it is. So you just put that you know it's somewhere in the USA and what the city or town name is, if that's all you know. Or maybe you just have the county name and the state. That's what you can put then until you have some more concrete information to put a more specific location. You can, of course, leave unknown details blank at this time, because you can always go back to add in that information once you confirm it or once you find that information. Or maybe you thought it was one date and that's what you put in there, but then you go check your paperwork or you find a record that's like, oh, it was actually 2 days before that, or it was a different month or a different year. You can easily go in and edit that in your tree at any time. Of course, you also want to add any offline sources you might have to prove your information. So maybe you found a birth certificate that you have a copy of and it's not available online. Well, you don't have to scan it and add it in, but at the very least, you can create a source with that information and put it in your family tree. So put in there, okay, this is what repository I found it at, or the volume number and page number that I found it in. And Ancestry is really great about walking you through kind of what information they need to create that source for you. You could also use the notes field. There's a little notes field on Ancestry where you can write some of those details in there. If you find something on a website other than Ancestry, there's also a spot where you can add a website link to those sites that are outside of Ancestry. So for instance, maybe you found something on the Wisconsin Historical Society website and you want to add it to your tree, you can just click on the add web link and then put in a copy of that whole website and then that information in there. And it'll save it for you that you don't have to worry about saving it elsewhere. It's all in your tree for you. Excuse me. So once you've added yourself, like I'm going to pretend I'm Mickey Mouse, and I can add a spouse here, or I can add Mickey Mouse's father or Mickey Mouse's mother, and I would enter their information just like I entered my own information and click continue after every time when I add a person. Once you add either a spouse, a father, or mother on a tree, Ancestry is going to say, hey, you need to name this tree. So I would name it something obvious. So I would usually use like a surname plus family tree. So for Mickey Mouse's family tree, I put Mouse family tree. And then, excuse me, this is also where you can mark it if you want it to be private or public tree. So this button right here, you can click on it to allow others to view this tree, which means it's public. Or if you uncheck it, that means you're going to make it private. And if you want to learn a little bit more information on that, you can click on where it says, how does this help me? And it will tell you a little bit more about that. So you want to keep following this process and build your tree to add those additional direct line relatives directly from your pedigree chart. So you can see on my tree, right here, I'm missing the mother of Julius, but at some point, if I find his mother, I can just click on that, fill in her information that I might know at that point, and then add her to the tree. Or if I want to add a father of Carl, I would do that right up here. So it's wherever you are on your tree, that's where you'd go and create the next person. You can also add additional people or do additional things on your tree. So each person that you create and add to your tree has their own little profile page. So this is a snapshot of part of my second great grandfather's page. And you can see that there's 5 different tabs on here. So there's a facts tab where it kind of defaults. You've got that timeline that I've talked about. You've got sources listed here. You've got family members listed here. There's a hint one. So if you do have a subscription to Ancestry, they're trying to give you hints that, oh, we think we found this person in the 1910 census, or we think we found this person in this birth record. There's a gallery where, if you add photos or other things in here, you can click on that and see those photos. There's Life Story, where Ancestry kind of takes the information that you've put in here and tries to create a beautiful life story for you. I forget what Explore is off the top of my head now for some reason. My mind is blank. We'll have to go click on it and see what Explore is. Oh, Explore is a new thing. This is where you can explore the times your ancestor lived in. So you can see he lived in Menasha during this year. And if I click on it, it's going to say, oh, here are some things related to Menasha from this year. It might be just random photos of other people or random newspaper articles. So this is something new that Ancestry has rolled out. But you can see, for example, if we click on this facts page, this is where you can add different details. So I can add a different event if I want to, like if I have a baptism date for him or a burial date for him, I would just select that and then it brings up a box where I would add that information in. This is also where you can add any sources, or you can look at the sources already attached to your tree. This is also where I can add different family members. So I can add another spouse, I can add a brother or a sister or a son or a daughter here. Of course, I've already added his parents here, but if I hadn't, there would be a spot here where I could add a father or mother. So each person that you click on has one of these pages. So you can just kind of navigate throughout each person's page and see what kind of details that I've already put in this person's page with what resources I've found and what things I've found offline. There's also something in the very corner of your pedigree chart that shows you a tree rating. So this is something new that Ancestry gives you a weekly tree rating if your tree has more than 50 people, and it gives you a preview of 3 people who may have errors in your tree. So they've rolled out this new thing called Pro Tools, which tries to help you find additional errors. So basically this tree rating and this trying to give you previews of these 3 people that might have errors is trying to get you to add that extra subscription of Pro Tools. I wouldn't deal with it until you've learned Ancestry a little bit better. Even I haven't played with Pro Tools very much, and I've been doing genealogy for a while. Right next to it, there's this DNA symbol. So this is where you can add DNA matches. Of course, again, it requires an upgraded subscription. And of course, you've had to have done your DNA through Ancestry in order to do that. Then they've got a search button here. They've got a tools button and an edit button. Search is going to launch a search through Ancestry's historical records. Again, you need a subscription in order to do that. And it's going to pre-populate that information on that person. So like we were just on Henry Stilp's page, it would pre-populate his birth date, his birthplace, his marriage date, death date, all that kind of stuff in the search boxes already. I personally don't recommend searching that way because it almost narrows your search way too much, because it's putting in everything that it knows about Henry at that point, which sometimes is a little too much information. It's going to be like, okay, I have 0 results for you because you've put in all this stuff. So I search a little bit differently than through this. In the tools part, they have several different options. So you can view that person in the tree. So it will bring you out to that pedigree view where it puts him as the first person, and then you can see, his pedigree chart from there. They've got a spot where you can view notes. So if you've made any notes or you want to view any notes that you've already put in there on that person, only you and people you invite to your tree can look at those notes. So those are notes that are private just to you. If you want to put it in there like, oh, I need to investigate more on, I think he might have been married twice or something like that, whatever note you want to put in there to yourself. There's a spot called comments. So comments are public if your tree is public. So anybody can see those comments on those deceased people only and make additional comments. So if somebody like a cousin wants to write a comment on that person, they can write a comment on it. There's a spot where you can merge duplicates. So maybe you need to merge two different people together that you accidentally added that person twice in your tree. There's a spot where you can save to the tree. So this allows you to copy that profile and save to another tree. So maybe you've got two different trees that you're trying to work on in Ancestry. You can just easily save it that way. Print, that allows you to print that profile page in an easy to read format. So kind of similar to the family group sheets that we looked at in our first session, it's gonna lay it out very similar on your printout if you wanted to print out on each of these people. Then there's a spot for Member Connect. So this tries to connect you to other users on Ancestry who might also be researching that person, where you can compare your tree to their tree quickly at a glance, and then see if they've got different information than you or vice versa, and maybe use their stuff that they have as hints to see if you can find actual records and sources to back up that information. Again, these are the notes and comments. So notes, again, are not public. So these are little notes that I put to myself like, hey, the church name is different now than what it was. And there's another August and Amelia living in Chicago, so don't mess them up, like a little reminder to myself. And then there's a spot for comments. Again, those are public as long as your tree is public, and anybody can add additional comments after your comment. I don't see people do that too often, but you never know. And then there's an edit spot. So this is where you can choose to quick edit things about this person. So if you mistyped their birth date, or you need to add a little bit more information after you learn a little bit more information, you can quickly edit their name, their birth and death date and places, their gender, their status, if you need to mark them from living to deceased, or if you need to edit their relationships. Maybe they have a stepfather that you want to edit that relationship and make sure it says stepfather and not biological father, or edit the spouse or child relationships. Or of course you can delete. If you accidentally added something and you just want to start over on that person and completely delete them, you can do that. Of course, Ancestry is going to make sure that you're sure first that you know once you delete that person, you can't get them back unless you add all the stuff again. There's also something called tree tags in Ancestry. So you can tag people with certain labels, which you can use for organizational purposes and to search people within your tree with that label. So it's under Find in Tree, and then they have different filters where you can search all of your immigrant ancestors or all your ancestors who were in World War I. So Ancestry has a couple pre-done tags already that you can choose from. Under DNA, under life experience, under relationship, under research status, or you can create custom tags. So like I created a custom tag for World War I veteran, for Civil War, so that I know, that he is a World War II veteran. Now I can click on that and see other World War II veterans that are in my tree. If I'm going to the World War II museum to do some research, I can get a little quick list of all of those veterans that are in my tree. And you can, of course, add and edit these tags at any time. You can choose not to use them if you don't want to, or use them. I use them kind of to organize stuff. You can also add other relatives. So in that profile page, when we looked at each person, so if you want to add children or siblings, you can easily do that, but it's going to depend on what people are listed here, depending on what you already have in your tree. So for example, this person who had no parents listed yet, I could add a spouse, a father, a mother, a son, or a daughter. But this person who already has both parents added, it only gives me the options for spouse, brother, sister, son, and daughter. So that's why it's going to vary what family members you're going to get, depending on what you already have in your tree. So once you click on add whoever, it's going to give you that box where you fill in that information. Again, you fill in their name, their birth date, their birthplace, death date, death place if they've already died, and then click continue, and then magically they're in your tree now. Like I mentioned earlier, adding sources, this is the spot where you would add a source. So say something you found offline, like that church record that you got offline, you'd click add right here and you can create a new source. And then Ancestry is going to walk you through what information it needs on that new source. So who's the author, or where's that location or that date, or a call number if it's a library book or something like that. Or you can write a little note in here like, oh, I went to blah, 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 blah. Whatever you want to do in here. And then you can save that source and now it's attached to your tree. So this is just adding a source. If you wanted to add the document after it, there is a way to upload it like in your gallery, and then I think you can attach it with your source then. Any questions before we move on to Family Search? So adopted people, you can list biological parents if you know they're biological parents, and then list adopted parents if you know they're adopted parents. So that it would list the two different sets of parents in there. So it's under relationships. So like, let's see. If you go under edit, you can edit relationships. So that's where you could change it from stepmother to adopted, or change your spouse, if they weren't really married and they were just partners or things like that. You can edit those relationships under that edit button. See if we got any online questions here. Sure.
I think I answered this myself. So all that detail you're showing for so in the tree, does somebody click on that box in the tree and then it gives you all the information about the lower tube bed?
So I put all that stuff in that tree. So like if we go look back here at his page, I put all of this in here. So see if it lets me bring him up again. So I put all this stuff in here. So if my tree is private, if my tree is public, somebody could click on this and see, oh yeah, okay, this is the information and it's attached to this source. So now I can click on this source and pull it up and view the image of it if I'm looking at somebody else's tree. Yeah, as long as your tree's public, anybody can see all this stuff, except for your notes. Like if I had notes on him here, it wouldn't show up. But like for him, I don't have any tags, but I can add tags right here if I wanted to.
And the other question I have is that a GEDCOM file, does that include all those links?
The GEDCOM does not include all the links, no. It's kind of like the bare bones start of it.
Oh.
So under edit is where you can edit those relationships. So like you were asking about adopted people, I can add an alternative father, or I can change this relationship to something else if he's not the biological father, for example. They've got different options for spouse as well. So you can see he has two different spouses, so they're both listed as the spouse. Or you can change the relationship of the child as well. Let's see what our online question was here. Is there a color coding system available on Ancestry? Say I want to put in a fact, but investigate further. No. So if you want to investigate something further, you can put that in your comment, or not your comments, your notes field. So for example, let's see, if I view notes here, then I can put in need to investigate blah, 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 and I can put in whatever I want to in here. And maybe I'd add a tag here that says, let's see, research status, actively researching, or this is a hypothesis. You can, again, use these pre-populated tags that Ancestry has, or you can create your own tags. So under custom tags, these are the ones I've already created, or I can create another custom tag that says, this isn't verified, or whatever I want it to say. And you can change your notes and your comments at any time. So that's something simple that you can do right in there. Any other questions about Ancestry before we move on?
Well,
Sure.
so let's say I would get one purchase software one month,
Mm-hmm.
at the JEDCOM file. And the JEDCOM file upload.
Yes.
So I already created a comprehensive family tree software on my computer, and then upload it.
Yeah, so certain softwares sync at the same time. So like Family Tree Maker, it syncs with Ancestry really great. I think Roots Magic does as well. So it'll look similar to how it does on Ancestry as it will on your software and vice versa. So if you've already created your family tree in your software and you want to upload that JEDCOM to Ancestry or sync your tree to Ancestry, you can easily do that. Looks like another question came in online here. Let's see. Where in Ancestry can you color code the family branches? You cannot color code in Ancestry. You can only do that in genealogy software. I wish you could. I think enough people have asked Ancestry to color code, but they have not. All right, let's move on to Family Search. So Family Search is a completely free site. You do need to create or be logged into your Family Search account. So if you don't already have one, create one completely free and then use it every time you want to use Family Search. Like I mentioned earlier, Family Search unfortunately is just one large family tree that everyone who uses Family Search can contribute to. This means anyone can add, edit, delete, change anything on that family tree, except for living people. The information on living people is always private until they are marked deceased, either with a death date or I think it's 125 years have passed since their birth date. This also means you can't delete people on the family tree. You can edit their details, you can remove or replace relationships, you can merge certain people if you think this is a duplicate person, but you can't just say, hey, I'm going to delete this person. They aren't actually a part of my family tree, and some other person added this person as a father that's not really their father. You can't delete it. You can only change those relationships and things like that. The great thing is Family Search is now starting to work on something where they might soon allow individual family trees in the near future, though they are going to still keep the collaborative tree. So stay tuned for more. Maybe next time I give this talk in another year or two, maybe by that point they will have allowed us to create individual trees in Family Search. But we'll have to stay tuned. For right now, it's just the collaborative tree in Family Search. So you can add your ancestors to the family tree if they aren't already added. Family Search, of course, as you enter in their information, they're going to try to check to see, is this person already in our family tree? Because they don't want to add duplicate people. You can always, of course, merge duplicate people if you do later find that person already had one or somebody else, for some reason, ignored that your person was already on there and created a separate page for them. There are several different ways that you can add new people. From your tree view or from a person view are kind of the two main ways. So if you go under Family Search, there's a whole tab for Family Tree, with lots of different options here. So I kind of spell out what each of these options are. The overview, if you click on that first link, it's going to bring you to a page just telling you about the family tree and allow you to click to view into the tree. The tree is going to bring you into Family Tree, starting with where you are in the tree, as long as you've already added yourself. If you haven't, it's going to prompt you to add yourself. The recents, this is going to bring you to a list of people that you maybe have recently looked at their page on Family Tree. And it's also going to list yourself. So you can click on their pages and then be brought into that person. So if you were working on your second great grandfather last week and now you're logging back in today, it's going to have him listed as a recent person. So you can go right back to where you left off. Under Find, this is allowing you to search for a specific person in Family Tree. So you can either search for them by name and add a couple details like their birth date or something like that to make sure you're finding the right person. Or each person is assigned an ID number in Family Search. So you're probably not going to know that number off the top of your head. So I have never personally searched by ID number. It's just easier to follow my ancestors and then pull them up easily or search for them by name. Under Following, this is where you can see a listing of all the deceased people that you follow. So you can click on their pages and then go into their pages if you want to look at their page or edit any details on their page. My contribution is going to show you any people that you've added to Family Tree and changes you have made, as well as some statistics like, hey, you added 10 new people to the tree or whatever. There's a spot for private people. So these are people you have added who aren't visible in the tree yet. So all those living people, like your brother, your sister, your parents, if they are still living, that you have added that although they're in the family tree, only you can see them. So if you wanted to add some details on those private people, only you would be able to click on that private people area and change those details. Then the last one is family groups. So you can create a group to share the tree and send messages to specific family members. So say you and two cousins or your brother and sister all working on the family tree together, you can create your own family group and share messages back and forth between that whole group. So if you go to Family Tree and click on Tree, that's how you're going to get into your tree. So here you would already add yourself if you haven't already. So I just did a test here. Then you would add on a relationship. So I can add the spouse, or I can add a child, or I can add a father or a mother. So any spot that says add and whatever relationship it is, that's where you click on and start filling in the pertinent information. So that birth date, their full name, all those kind of details on that person. This is also where you can mark them as living or deceased. So, of course, just like Ancestry, it's asking for that first name, that last name, their gender, their status of deceased or living, that birth date, death date, place, and place. If they are deceased, it's automatically going to check against people already in the family tree to see if they can find a match based on what information you put in here. If you basically just put their name in here and know their details, it's going to have a hard time seeing if there's any matches, but it might give you some matches depending on how common of a name. So you kind of continue building your tree. Every time you click next, it adds that person to the tree. And then you can add the next person and the next person and the next person until you all of a sudden find, hey, there's a match for this grandparent or that parent. They're already in the tree, and it's going to connect you with that person in the tree and then pre-populate all of their descendants or ancestors in there. So if your father's already in there and it's already connected to his parents and their parents and their parents, it's going to go back as far as it goes back in the family tree. So for example, I can already see my great-grandparents are listed here, plus my second great-grandparents, and I can click this arrow to go another generation, another generation, another generation, because somebody has already added this stuff. I did not add this. If I want to select children under here, it's going to ask me to add a child. So I can see the 2 children listed under this couple and add a 3rd child if I wanted to. Again, then it would bring up that information where I type in that name, birth date, death date, all that kind of stuff. How you find a person. So if you go under Family Tree and find, this is where you search for them by name. And if you click on more options, it's going to give you that space to put in that birth date, or you can put in the parent's name or the spouse's name, different ways that you can search for that person. There's also a way that you can add new people from the person page. So just like on Ancestry, every person in the family tree has their own little person page. So you can see they've got all these different tabs here with different details, different sources. Collaborate means there's other people who want to collaborate with you. Memories, that's where they share photos or obituaries, things like that. There's a timeline in here. So lots of great stuff in here. But if you're looking just to add more people at this point, you can scroll down from here. And you can see here, it's gonna have a spot where you can add a child, or I can edit these details. Anytime you see a pencil, that means you can edit these details. So say I can see, oh, there's no marriage date listed for this couple, but I know it because I found the record in the courthouse. I can click on edit it with the little pencil. I can put in those details, and I can put in my source right in the field of, Family Search always says, why do you think this is correct? Then I can put in, I have the marriage record, it was volume blah, 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 page blah, 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 at the Brown County Courthouse or whatever. Here is also where you could add siblings or different children. So kind of just pay attention to where you're clicking to add, and then you can add more people. If I scroll down, I think I can also add another spouse if for some reason they had another spouse. You can also see what changes have been made on your ancestors page. If you follow a certain ancestor, so you can get a weekly notification about changes you made to ancestors you follow. Family Tree will also give you hints. It will connect you to sources that have already been attached to your ancestor and connect you to other researching the same branch of the family. But of course, everything you already find in this family tree, you want to verify because you don't know who added it, and if they were accurate or not. I mean, you can see the name of the person who added it and when they added it, but you want to click on that 1900 census and say, is it for sure this person that I'm looking at? And verify if it is or isn't, because I found lots of inaccurate stuff on my direct line ancestors already. You, of course, also want to make sure you're adding sources when you are adding facts, or at the very least, adding some reasoning behind the changes you make, because someone might go behind you and make all these changes and undo all the changes. So I mentioned earlier August Kepschel and how there's another August Kepschel in Chicago at the same time. Well, if I go in here and I see him, I can see all the different changes that somebody has made. So right here, I can see the latest changes, and you can see that darn Katie Stilp keeps making changes. And she adds, look there's this record here for him, and this is why I know it's right. But then we can look at this in a few months and somebody else might have deleted that or changed the different date. Or you can see, you know, certain people are adding certain things and you can see what date they have added that. Or there's lots of other people in foreign languages who are also working on the tree that you have to then translate that. Or like a lot of times I've had to unconnect kids from here because they are adding kids to the wrong August. But if we go back to his profile page, right up here, there's a button called follow. This is where I would click on that, and now it says I'm now following him. So now every week, if somebody makes a change, I'm going to get a notification in my email that says, hey, you have new notification. And then up here, it's going to give me a little red button up here where it's going to tell me all of my different notifications. And it's going to say, these are the changes that have been made to that person, la, 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 la. And then I can go in there and see what's been changed. So here's where you can look at all their different vital information. These are all details that somebody else has already made. You can see, hey, there's no source attached. Maybe I want to find that 1910 census and add that source in here. Or you can see, oh, all of a sudden the parents aren't listed in here, which is strange because I know I added the parents before, but somebody else must have unconnected them. So now I can go in here and I can see if I can search for this Carl Kepschel and put in what information I know about him and click next. And now it's going to say, oh, we didn't find a match. Maybe you want to add some more information. Maybe if you have a date and a place to improve to see, hey, can we actually find him or not? Or nope, I just want to create this person, then that's going to add him to the tree. If I scroll down further, I can see all the different people. If I really want to dive into somebody more, I can kind of get a little snapshot preview. And then if I click on her name again, now I'm going to be brought into her page. And so you can see under memories, I've got a photo of her that somebody added already to here. I can see who did it. I can click on her name and I can send her a message. Sometimes people will list their email address in there as well, where you can just send them a message and say, hey, I think we might be related because you added a picture of my great-great aunt in here. The other thing I like to do when I'm looking at the tree is go into the sources. So I can see all the different sources that have been listed here. So right here, this looks like a birth record. If I click on it, it gives me a link right here that I can then pull up in a different window and I can see what information has been added from that and see, okay, this looks like it's the right person. This looks like it's the right family. That's a good source. And then I can keep going source to source and see maybe I didn't already have that 1910 census for her, and now I can click on it and be brought into that census record and now save it for my own stuff. Does that make sense? All right. Any questions on using Family Search? We do have a little bit more of an in-depth Family Search one coming up, I think in August too, where we're diving a little bit deeper. The spelling doesn't count in genealogy records. You have to always get creative with the spelling. So if you look under her page, you can see like under details, somebody might have added like, oh, so there's alternative names. So I could put under here a different spelling of her last name. So I could put Kipschel or whatever it was. And put this was in her birth record if I wanted to. Or maybe instead of Anna, she went by Annie, and I could put that's a nickname, or something like that. So that's a spot where you can do that. You just kind of keep track of all the different names. This family especially their surname is spelled 1,000 different ways. I found them under a lot of different creatively spelled names. Got a couple questions online here. Let's see, adoption info. What is the best way to add this info? I know about relationship tabs, but what name should be in the tree? The legal adopted name or the birth name? Or should put the birth name as an alias or nickname? That is your own personal preference. If you want to use their legal name or their adopted name, I would use whatever they are found in records under. So of course, maybe their legal birth name, it might be on their birth certificate, but the rest of all their documents are going to be under their adopted name. I would use their adopted name and then put alternative name as their birth name. On Ancestry, where can you add alternative name? Sure. I can show you that. Let's see. So we go to somebody's page here. Under the Facts tab, if you go to Add, there is also known as. So I could say he went by Jack or whatever, and I can add that in. So that's where I would add that. Any other questions before we move on to our next one? We're just going to talk about MyHeritage very briefly. All right. So MyHeritage is one that allows you to build a tree for free, but only have 250 people in their free version. If you want a bigger tree, you do need to have a subscription. They've got a bunch of different random levels of subscription depending on what you want to use the site for. Like if you just want to build your tree on here, it's a premium subscription of $129 a year. And you can't even search the trees, which I think is crap. But if you want to actually find records, it's $209 a year. So you can see it's not very cheap. Or they have a complete subscription that's $299 a year. So that's why we're not spending a ton of time on MyHeritage, because I personally have not purchased a subscription from them. I have a few people in my tree in there and just have connected with a couple other people that have trees on there a little bit. But I haven't personally spent my own time researching in their site very much. They do have a 14-day free trial. I know a lot more people in Europe use MyHeritage. It's more like a European-based, website. So it's an option for you if you'd like it. Let's see. So you can see just briefly in my tree, I'm right down here. I've got my siblings listed here. I've got my parents listed here. I've got grandparents listed here. So if you want to add a person, all you have to do is click this little plus button, and then I can add a person, or I can go up here and click add a father and add him, or I can add my grandma's father or my grandma's mother. There's also a spot where you can add your photos right here if you just click in their photo. It's also cool. One thing that I like about MyHeritage is sometimes it gives you these fun little icons. So like my parents are both born in May. So both my mom and my dad have a little birthday cake because I just took this screenshot the other day that says, hey, mom and dad have birthdays this month. Cool, in case you forgot. So those are kind of fun, but other than that, not a whole lot of fun. They've also got this discovery thing, which I'll show you what that means in just a second. So when I click on that little plus under my grandpa, it says I can add his father, I can add his mother, another partner, a daughter, a son, sister, or brother. So I would click on whoever I wanted to add at that point. If I wanted to add his father, and then I'd click in and add those details, or whoever I wanted to add. Discovery, this is trying to connect you to a potential person that already exists in family trees that are already on MyHeritage. So if you click on it, it's going to try to verify, hey, is this the same person that you think you're going to add to the tree compared to this tree? So for example, it's saying, hey, this looks like it's the parent of this person, and this person already has a tree with 40 different people. That you can now all of a sudden add all 40 of these people to your tree. The downfall is this tree might not be correct. So for example, I already have done my genealogy quite a ways back on this line, and I know that his grandmother is Bertha, but you can see it's got like 5 different names listed here. It does not have her maiden name listed here. Herford is her second husband's name. Christensen was her first husband's name. Doesn't have her maiden name. I can go in there and edit that later, but right now, where I'm trying to add all these different 40 people that this person already has in their tree, I can't make any corrections. So I would have to like almost write down all these names and then go back and fix them all if you wanted to add all these to your tree. So it's an easy way to kind of copy and paste somebody else's tree. But be aware, of course, you can be adding a lot of errors into your own tree by doing this. But of course, once I hit a name of somebody to add, so for example, if I want to add the mother of somebody, it's going to ask me their first and middle name, their maiden name, a prefix and suffix, their married name, birth date, place. I can mark if they're living and deceased, their death date, death place, cause of death, burial place, or cemetery. It asks for a couple different additional details that some of the other sites don't ask for, but you can easily add that in here. And you can even add more facts if you click on this Edit More spot. Once you would be done, you would just click OK, and then they're added to your tree. But the bummer is, if you don't pay for that subscription and you try to go search in family trees, it gives you all this blurry information. So you can see a tree exists out here by such and such person, but I can't contact them. I can't view this without paying for the subscription in order to view this and contact that person. So that's why I personally don't use MyHeritage that much. There's also a site called Find My Past. So this is UK based. It is free to build your tree and to store your family tree, but you do, of course, need a paid subscription to get all the hints and to use the historic records. There are some free records, just like in Ancestry. You can also upload a GEDCOM from another website or your software on here. It's very similar to the other sites that we've already looked at, where you can build from that pedigree view. Each person has their own profile page. You can view their timeline. You can add relatives, add different photos or obituaries and things. Of course, when you get started, it asks you to fill out the details on yourself. And then you can add each of your direct ancestors. So if I add my mom, I could put her name in here, what her status is, her year of birth, her place, et cetera, and it kind of walks you through, again, how to build that tree person by person. Again, when we're looking at the pedigree version of it, I can see this little circle up here that says 4. It means that there's 4 different hints for this person. So if I click on it, it brings up this little sidebar that shows me, oh, we think we found him in the 1940 census, the Social Security Death Index, so I can see if it's free. If it's free, it's going to be marked free down here. If it's not free, it's going to, of course, ask me to pay for a subscription. And then just like the other sites, you've got that little plus button where you can add that relative, and it's going to ask you who you want to add and then ask you for those details on that person to start populating those people in your tree. Again, each person has their own little profile page where you get that timeline. You can see facts, you can see hints, stories, different media, different notes. I personally haven't played with Find My Past very much, but I just wanted to show you kind of what it looks like. One thing I liked is they've got this kind of cool map in here where, if I started populating my family tree in here, it could show me all the different places he's lived, and then you can kind of see it right on the map, which is kind of cool. It's also got a spot where it might suggest a person. So if I click on that, it's going to say, oh, we found a birth record for him, that it probably lists his mom on it. So I could review it then and see, is it right? And then add her right to the family tree based on this record. It also kind of gives you cool little hints up here. So it says like birth and baptism records are good places to find someone's mother. They usually contain her full name or maiden name. So now I know this might be a good resource to use if I'm trying to find out who his parents are. A couple other tree sites. So one's called Genie. It's also owned by MyHeritage. They do have a free basic option that allows you to work on a collaborative tree. So just like Family Search, it's one large tree that everybody can work on. But they do offer a subscription that allows you to find matching trees and to merge into that single world tree. And they give you some more research tools. I have not explored it myself, but you can import your GEDCOM file in here, and you can build your tree, of course, just like the other sites, from the pedigree view. Each person also has their own profile page where you can add all those additional details, view their timeline, all that kind of great stuff. But again, just like the other sites, it's going to ask for that basic biographical information, names, dates, places, all that kind of great stuff. Two other ones, WeRelate and WikiTree. So WeRelate is also a free one. It is another one large collaborative tree. You do have to have an account in order to even search or build your tree, but it is free. I also have not used that one, so I can't really comment on it. If anybody has used it either online or in here, feel free to share your experience with us. There's also WikiTree, so this is another free one with that large collaborative tree. You can search for people in the tree without having to sign up for an account, which I like. So you can see what's already out there on WikiTree for your ancestors and kind of use it as another hint of where you might find some additional details that you're not aware of yet. You can even see who put the information on there and private message them without even having an account, which is great. You do need to provide your email address, of course, so that you can get a response from that person. That's really helpful. Again, similar to other sites where each person has their own profile and you can view all the different things. So like I found a profile page on former President Jimmy Carter. So I can see his details in here and I can see different family members in here and all kinds of great stuff and click on all these people if I wanted to and see all the kinds of great stuff that he's got in here. I can see different photos in here. I can see different comments in here that he's got. So all kinds of information in here. There's a sources spot. So it kind of, whenever you click on one of these little things, it brings you to that specific section in here. And I can see different categories. He's a part of, certain, Georgia governors and US presidents. So I can, click on this if I want to explore more US presidents in here. So again, you can kind of play around with this and use it as a hint if you'd like. Anytime you see somebody that I'm like, hey, I really want to message this person, you can go in here and, start talking to that person or send them a message. Some people make it easier than other. So if you see this little envelope, that's where I can send her a message. I'd be able to put my name and my email address and my message to her, and then she would get it. That's all the tree building sites that I'm aware of. If you have any questions about any of those other ones, feel free to let me know. But the main ones that I really focused on is Ancestry and Family Search. We've got a couple books up here, or they're also listed in your handout that I really recommend. So this one's all about Ancestry.com. It is a little bit old because it's from 2018. So the screenshots are a little bit updated. Of course, they're constantly making little changes to the site to make it prettier. But it has lots of really helpful information on using the site and really detailed information on building your tree here. So I definitely recommend taking a look at it. There's also one for Family Search. It is also a few years old, but it really goes in depth to using the site. Again, those screenshots are outdated because they're of course making little tweaks here and there, but it's still really helpful with the basics of using the site and how to navigate and how to start building that tree. They also have some really great classes through Family Search. So this is a link in your handout which shows you some upcoming classes and webinars that they have. So these are available online for you, where you can see kind of what they've already done this month and links to YouTube to watch the recording if it's available. So there's a whole overview one. Or you can, sign up for the ones that are forthcoming yet. You can look at the past ones here as well. They've even got handouts listed here. So there's a couple right here about the family tree. So if you are somebody who's still pretty new to using the family tree, maybe check out these links where it's going to talk to you and, quickly give you some more information, more in depth about using this specific site. Our next session for Genealogy Jumpstart is going to be Tuesday, June 24th. We're going to be talking all about Ancestry Library Edition and Heritage Quest, which are two great databases that we have here at the library that you can use for free for genealogy research. So I'll show you more in depth of how to use them and what the difference is between the two and all kinds of great stuff. In the meantime, we're also going to have our Find Your Ancestors session. So if we're in the summer at this point for Find Your Ancestors, so our next session is going to be Thursday, June 12th at 6 p.m., where we're going to be talking about gravestone symbolism with Angie Knutson. And then we're also going to offer a special session in person on Saturday, June 14th at 10 a.m., where we're going to show you and demonstrate how you clean a gravestone. And you could even get your hands dirty and help us clean some to see how to properly clean a gravestone if you want to preserve your ancestors' gravestones. And we'll spot some cool symbolism in the cemetery as well. I'm happy to take any additional questions you guys have. Yeah.
You've done a lot of research, and I have too. Do you find that putting your tree out on 5 or 6 different sites is beneficial or confusing?
So putting your tree on a couple different sites, that's up to you. I personally always make sure to keep one copy that I'm the only person who can edit. So like I have a tree on Ancestry that I mark private. I have another tree that I mark public that people can find me. So I kind of use it as cousin bait where people can find me that way because they know, I have a tree with those people. I also kind of will update some stuff on Family Search, but really I don't have a whole lot of time to do that. I've got a bare bones tree on MyHeritage. I've never gotten anybody contacting me on there before. So it's really up to you and the amount of time and effort you want to put. It would be easy though, if you want to just have like that GEDCOM and then upload that GEDCOM to the different sites. If you're somebody who doesn't want to have to keep repeating that information, it's really easy to download that GEDCOM file.
My second question is whether or not I use WikiTree a lot.
Okay.
And do you think that that's reliable or suspicious?
So any tree building site, you want to verify any information you find on there, regardless if it's WikiTree or WeRelate or Family Search or MyHeritage, any tree that you come across online, verify every single thing. I always use it as a hint.
They just always help a lot for 1600 and stuff.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to find on there. You could stumble across some great stuff on there, or you could stumble across a tree full of junk. You just never know. They might have 100 sources or they might have 10 sources. Those 10 sources might be right, and maybe those 100 sources are right, but you don't know unless you look at each individual source and make that determination for yourself. Any other questions? What about our online folks here? Let's see. What version is current now at Family Tree Maker? So I thought they were getting ready to release a new version, but I do not know. Let's see. And my show here. So Family Tree Maker, let's see if we can find out which version is coming here. So 2019 is the most recent edition of Family Tree Maker. But I thought they were getting ready to release a new one, or they had talked about releasing a new one sometime soon. Yeah, I don't see anything else on here about a new version. I personally do not use Family Tree Maker, so if anybody wants to chime in who uses Family Tree Maker. It says Family Tree Maker 2024 was released on Mother's Day. Well, great, so it just was released, so there's your answer. Thank you. It's kind of strange that I can't buy it on here though. Maybe if I put 2024 here. It always makes me nervous because you look at some of these, links on here, like, I don't know if that's a good link or not. So be careful when you're exploring these sites. Yeah, someone says they received an email. So if you already have Family Tree Maker, like a different version, it looks like they're sending emails to get you to update to the recent one. Someone shared they've been using WikiTree and they like it because it emphasizes resources and users work hard to collaborate to avoid duplicates. So thanks for sharing, Nancy. Yeah, someone says they like the reports in Family Tree Maker better than Ancestry. It's a little tricky in the first place, but now that they have it working correctly, it's wonderful. So yeah, feel free to share your experiences with any sites or software in the chat if you'd like. Can you create your tree on Family Tree Maker by downloading your Ancestry tree? Yes. So to download a GEDCOM of your tree, you would go to your tree and go to sharing, or is it settings? I can't quite remember. It's settings probably. Yeah, under settings, we're right here, it's where it says manage your tree. It says export your family tree data as a GEDCOM file to your computer. So you click export tree. It says, do you want to export your tree? It can take some time depending on the size of your tree. So you click export and this is going to generate a GEDCOM file. Might take a minute or two depending on how large your tree is. You can see it's kind of going pretty fast. But then once it's done generating a GEDCOM file, I can save that file and then I can upload it to, WikiTree or whatever, tree building site or software I would have. Of course, now it's only going to be at 11% and it's going to stay there for a while because we're waiting on it, but that is how you do that. So you can look at other sites, like if we go into like MyHeritage, for example, I log in. It says I reset my password, so I can't log into there, but maybe if we click in here, it says import tree. So now I can import that GEDCOM file right here. So I just kind of click on the little links that say how to import it. I've got to sign into MyHeritage or create a free account. Then it would say, okay, here's where you upload that GEDCOM, and that's where I would upload it. So once it downloads from here, look at now it has this download button. So I download it here. Now it's saving to my computer and I would upload it to whatever site I wanted to use. So if I just try to open this now, it's going to be like, we have no clue what you're trying to do. You're trying to just open it randomly on your computer. It's going to be all weird. Be sure to open it, of course, in a genealogy software or on a website that has GEDCOM capability.
Do you have any materials or information that you published in the past or that you're going to publish on how to use your DNA with your website?
So we don't have any DNA programs coming up. We just had one earlier this month about uncovering hidden roots with DNA, where we had Dana Kelly here from the Norwegian American Genealogical Society. And she did that presentation. It's on our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/APLREF, you can see under our playlists, we've got our Find Your Ancestors playlist here. So if you click on that, you can see right here, the Uncovering Hidden Roots with Your DNA was just added 8 days ago, and you can feel free to watch that video. But that's the only one we've got for DNA anytime soon. I can see maybe next year we might do another DNA one. I don't know yet at this point.
I've had my DNA done, but I don't know how to use it.
Yeah, that's a common problem I hear is people, have done it, but they don't know how to work with it. So yeah, it's tricky. She walks you through a few things like how to use cousin matching and shared matches and stuff. But it's a little less of the basics of, this is what you do and where you click and all that stuff. So I'll keep that in mind when I'm trying to think of what topics to do next year. See what other questions we've got. Yeah, so someone says Family Tree Maker, it's a free update if you already have the 2019 version, but this person had problems downloading it. So just be wary, of course. You never know if people might be trying to scam us poor genealogists So just be careful when you're trying to purchase certain things. I know for those who might be interested in Roots Magic, they are having a sale right now. So if you are somebody who's thinking about Roots Magic, they have a Memorial Day special where you can get 50% off Roots Magic 10, which is their latest version, using that discount code. So if you're somebody who's been on the fence of purchasing it, now might be a good time. They've got a discount going with it, so. And that's just rootsmagic.com. See if there's any other stuff here. Lots of great comments and questions in the chat here. Let's see if I'm missing any. Someone said capitalizing surnames is very easy to read and stands out on your tree. Yeah, I talked about this earlier. I personally do capitalize my surnames in the tree. It's kind of not standard practice for that everybody does it anymore, unfortunately. It's kind of a personal preference. People say it's outdated rule because, not everybody on the genealogy sites does that anymore because there's a spot for surname, but I recommend doing it, but not everybody does it. Someone does say that Pro Tools is wonderful and it's worth the extra cost. I unfortunately don't have much time to do my own genealogy anymore, so I haven't explored Pro Tools on Ancestry, but I think it's only another $10 a month to do that. There was a question earlier. I created several family trees based on ancestral couples. I'm told that I really need to consolidate. Any advice? You can do whatever you want with your family trees. It's your family tree. If you want to create one family tree for your dad's side, one family tree for your mom's side, or a family tree for each of your grandparents, no one's stopping you. It's whatever you want to do, whatever is easiest for you, and whatever makes sense. The good thing about creating separate trees is if you have somebody who reaches out to you who really just wants to know about your mom's paternal side, you can just share with them that portion of the tree and not your whole entire tree that has all those other branches that are unrelated, but it's up to you. I have a couple different trees as well. I have one large tree and then a tree for my mom's side of the family and a tree for my dad's side of the family. So just do whatever works best for you. Any other questions anybody has? Otherwise, I will leave you be and hopefully see you next month where we talk about Ancestry Library Edition and Heritage Quest more in depth. So thanks everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much.